I want to just give you all a quick welcome. Thanks for being here, for connecting. Felicity and I certainly have a little bit of time to run over, so if anyone wants to stay on after and continue the conversation, we can do that. But for those who have other engagements, we might get going. I'll give you a quick overview of what we want to do with this time, and then we can jump in. You may have seen Felicity and I both posted on Workplace that we wanted to have a moment today to ask you what has been an aha moment that you've had while you've been at Convergence, in the hope that some of them might be able to overlap and inspire something beyond this convening. And so in the spirit of that, as well as asking you to think about a aha moment, we're asking you to bring a sort of ask and offer that is, what are you offering? What would you ask for from this group? And we're wrapping into that. We're sort of like smashing together two things here. Wrapping into that, what might be the first action you take out of Convergence, the first step. And it can be small, it can be huge, but this regional connect is an opportunity for us to know who's on our side of the world, but really we're very disparate still. But it's a chance to know who's in this conversation and in this work with us, and so I hope that you all take this opportunity to see some new faces or see some faces you've already seen. And for those who couldn't make it, of course, we have the group on Workplace to continue connecting. So with that, we'll just take a moment to do this acknowledgement and reminder. So I'll ask you all to lift your hands off the keyboard, no typing, and take a hold of your own hand. We are not alone. We have power in our hands. This is not a light topic. And in this conversation, we will intellectualize and abstract a set of very real experiences. These discussions may trigger a wide range of emotions. In this room, statistically, are many survivors of gender-based violence. And we all participate in political, social, cultural, and economic systems that give permission for and facilitate violence. I'd like for us to take a moment of silence to acknowledge that violence is happening in this precise moment, somewhere, to someone. Now reverse your hands and notice the difference. We've come together to create new possibilities to address the epidemic of violence in our world. And connected in new ways, we can do even more. That's what today's about. Let us begin. So we have a small group here, so we're not going to do breakout rooms. We're going to do it all together. What that means is I'm going to ask you all to be as sort of sharp and concise as you can. But I'd love if we just want a popcorn style, whoever's hot can jump out and share what has been your aha moment, or what is one thing that surprised you. And if you could also start with where you are geographically today. Anyone want to kick us off?
I feel like I'm always. Oh, you go on. No, you go. I'm
No, I always tend to go first, so I try to give people an opportunity.
I'm happy to go. It's Rosanna. Unfortunately, I'm driving, so I'm not putting my. Looks like I've got it.
So go for it, Rosanna, since you're already talking.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I think I'm losing. So if that happens, you just keep on. Or over the top of me. Can people hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Sorry, now I'll be quick. My aha moment, I think, one, really just the continued importance of bringing people that aren't in the finance world into these conversations, and also using any way I can do to help to explain finance to others in my team that have deep expertise working at grassroots levels. So that was like a big thing for me.
Thank you. Judith, do you want to jump in? Yeah, go for it.
My aha moment was, why haven't we written that book that Teen talked about, the showdown, build the perfect plan for ending gender-based violence and share it. So that's my first act post Convergence is I believe I could build the team to write that book.
Amazing.
Good job.
Karen, do you want to carry us through to the next?
Sure. I think I have a couple of ahas, but one of the most heartwarming ahas was the number of people in the finance area and in the gender lens area, but a lot of the finance people reaching out to ask for help in understanding gender violence better, gender-based violence better, and wanting to get, onto podcasts and webinars, and that has been just a real heartwarming, just a wonderful thing that I wasn't expecting. And I have a couple on the finance side, but it's kind of technical, when people fully explain some of the terminology and give an example, like blended financing, I had no idea how that fit and why people thought that was a good idea because they didn't want to take a chance on women-run companies. And I was like, I get it. So beyond the terminology, I guess my aha was it takes a long time when we get the terminology, but we can't do the analysis. So, that leads me to what I need help in. My ask is, I'll be really brief. We need help in translating that, not just the terminology, but the analysis. So thank you for everyone who did that for me here.
Amy, Julia, you came off mute a little while ago.
Hi everyone. I think my aha moment is actually that this is a convergence. I didn't mean to use that word, but this is a convergence of a number of fields where you actually keep having aha moments. So maybe they're, oh yeah, moments, because I feel like I just keep reinforcing the moments that I might already have had in there, and then they kind of re-trigger or re-spark. And so I think that's been really helpful for me to sort of continually come back into an environment. It was like, yes, this is definitely where we need to be focused. And because of the capacity to get lost in this is quite high, and so because of that, to continually come back and reinforce that, I think is really important. And I think sort of my other two takeaways are, I can't stop thinking about insurance, and I think you were in the conversation when we first started raising that. It's like, let's turn this thing completely upside down. But then I think the other thing is we've sort of been circling around kind of the ecosystem or overlapping set of changes and supports. So I guess I don't know if I'm asking or offering, but I think mapping is something that's been mentioned, and I think that would be really useful. And in terms of sort of what I can offer, I've literally just started a new job this week, heading up the gender equality, disability and social inclusion practice at Coffee International Development. And so everywhere I'm looking is, ooh, what can we do to sort of be an elevator of innovative financing and GLI. I think Coffee can lift its capacity, and we've already, we're a partner in Pacific Rise, which I think, Felicity, is what you were referencing. But I'm sitting here with my scheming hat on going, what can we do here? So second day on the job, that's what I commit to, is scheming within my new organization.
Awesome.
more next. And yeah, it's really great to hear what, you know, everyone else's ahas are, and I really appreciate what everyone else is sharing. I think one of my ahas is that we're really getting a lot better and more sophisticated at the conversations around how GBV intersects with finance. I mean, I remember, you know, Joy and her team were very generously invited me to this convening in, like, I think it's 2015 or 2016. It's kind of it was a while back, and it was, you know, bringing together the gender experts with finance experts, much like we're doing now. And it felt like a lot newer to both sides. And I think it's a testament to Criterion, but also the sector at large, that, you know, I'm seeing a lot of the same folks here. So we've all kind of stuck with the journey and that thinking, which has been great. And in terms of, you know, first act, I was just really happy to connect with a lot of new folks who I wasn't as connected with. And, you know, somebody mentioned at the beginning of the call, being a parent, and, you know, like 2020, I would say has really affected, you know, our ability to connect with one another in ways that are joyful and additive to kind of the transactional nature of just our day-to-day jobs. And so it's been really great. And I'm going to have a bunch of coffees with folks who are thinking about strategy for GBV and finance. And that's, you know, that's what I specialize in. So yeah, I guess that's also my ask as well. Like, you know, I work in strategy for GBV. And so yeah, happy to connect with anyone who wants to connect.
Thank you. Go on, Vicky. Go for it.
I was going to say, while I'm here, I might jump in. So I would say that the work that but myself and also Julia are doing, so I'm coming from Sydney. Julia will speak for herself in a minute, I'm sure, from Melbourne. But coming to Convergence, I should say, from the view of when you're working with individuals, or when you're working with family offices, or when you're working in companies, how do you bring all of this knowledge to something that's palatable, that can help to scale this? And rather than us talking to each other who are already on so far down this journey, how do we disseminate this message really broadly? So I feel I've been seeing Convergence like a sponge, just getting sparked just all the time with ideas and frames and little pearls of wisdom that need to be sent out as far as and as widely as possible. So what I would my ask is that this group continues to stay connected, and we can approach each other and collaborate, because I feel like we really only just begun, and a month is a long time, yet, you know, I still feel that I haven't spoken to 2/3 of the wonderful people here. And my offer is, in return, the experience that I've had with private investors, family offices, corporate Australia, and providing that sort of lens of what I think are perhaps difficulties, and trying to help each other to break through. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, I want to jump in there and say, following on from the last two contributions, that workplace will remain open for people to continue to connect. And as you would have most likely experienced in your conversations, that it's an amazing group of people. I think at Criterion, we're just continually amazed that you all gave up your time to be here with us and do this deep thinking. And as you will have seen, there's a real willingness towards collaboration and following some of these ideas through. So I would encourage you all to reach out to those people you haven't connected with, because from my experience and the rest of the teams, they are absolutely as excited to continue these discussions and make these connections as the people you've already met who give off that energy. So I would assume that anyone who's here is up for it. Julia, do you want to jump in?
So, I guess I feel, as Vicky said, well, just build on what she said, but also that I feel like I didn't know what I didn't know until I got to the conference when I sort of had a rough idea, mind you. But so it's good because it's directed me to issues I need to understand more. Very early on in the conference, I think my understanding of the importance of gender analysis being undertaken by an expert in that field was really strengthened. So that's definitely, and I've understood more about that. A lot of the same, the reassuring part, if there is one, is that a lot of the same issues and questions I have and challenges in this area are being faced by others. So what are they? I guess issues as a board director, looking internally and understanding exactly what's going on within an organisation, and knowing that just having policies is not enough, but what is it that I need to know and need to look for? And then secondly, again, when I'm talking to fund managers who manage money, what are the frames I can use to talk to them? So how can I get them to understand and get them aligned and get them on board? And then I guess with that as well, who are the people I need to have behind me so I can exercise that power better. And then I guess on top of that, there's the overriding issue of how gender might be considered by people in finance, which is, I think it's good to try and look at adjusting what is there. So a lot of fund managers use ESG lenses, and so one of the the ongoing challenges is what extra questions or extra indicators can be incorporated into those screens or those lenses to better understand gender. I guess in the Australian context, or the context of operating in a developed market, those questions are slightly different. So a lot of work has obviously been done with respect to gender in developing economies that gives us a lot of really interesting groundwork to build on. And then we just need to build up still our base of knowledge of how to operate in developed markets. So, and I'm going to put Australia in a special basket because I totally recognise that there's a lot of expertise that have been built up in the US, but we don't obviously always have that knowledge and access to a lot of that in Australia. So I guess my ask is that it's great to hear that that workplaces continuing to be open, because that gives people like me access to people who are really specialised and understand this, and of, why invent the wheel, the research, when it's already been done or understood. And so that's good. So that's really my ask. And I guess, as Vicky said, to stay in contact with people, and then offer is any of those areas in which I operate and I am operating. I'm very happy to share what I've learnt and what I'm learning about how to increase the consideration of gender and the intentional movement of capital to decrease gender-based violence. So, yeah, that's it.
I will just, again, conscious of time. So I think for me, the aha has really been the generosity of people coming into these sessions. Criterion, we spent a lot of time working out how could we facilitate this and enable a space and an environment where people felt they were in a trusted space, and that they, were given the opportunity to sometimes, really go to places that are quite challenging. And so I've just been so pleased with the couple of sessions that I've been on, and then my communication with people like Vicky and Shuthri and Karen, and, you know, and just the generosity of all of you. And I mean, Karen, it's what, at 10:30 at home at the moment. So, you know, that's just blown my mind. And I think one of the things that I guess the stuff that we're hearing, and this is something that we're really turning our minds to now, is what is it going forward? And so what I'm hearing from you is, you know, staying connected and making sure that we can provide you with the tools to do that. The framing document, I think our framing document was talked about really early on, I think week 1. And so, you know, I'm hearing from you, Julia and Vicky, and those types of products could be really quite useful as well. So, you know, that there is, and Karen, you and I certainly had this conversation around trafficking and some of the challenges that you're facing in trafficking in the States, of things that we're facing, you know, in our regions as well. So, so being able to connect and share and learn and work with each other, I think is also what I'm hearing. So, Laura, I don't know if I missed anything there.
I was just going to say, with the sort of few minutes we have left, is if anyone has any other asks or offers they want to throw in that build off of those things that we've named, or other people have said, anything else spring to mind? Go for it, Amy.
So one thing, quite quickly, because I need to jump onto another call, and I've already been scheming with Joy and a few others, and Rosanna's a little bit familiar with this as well, is I'm also working quite closely with women's movements and civil society in Australia, and I think one of the partners that's potentially missing from this conversation is the women's rights movement and civil society actors who are working on the grassroots on violence prevention and advocacy around that. And I think there's a real potential and need to sort of demystify and unpack for those movements the power of finance, and how that can be deployed in a good way for gender equality and preventing violence. So one of the things that we're exploring at this stage is whether there's a masterclass opportunity, and sort of I'm softly reaching out to some of the women's rights organisations that I'm working with, and Joy softly going, yeah, I could help with that. And we're thinking, are there private sector actors that we can bring in, essentially to be queried, or you know, to start creating a shared space between those sort of two sides of this. My point is, and this came up early in the conversation, is there a suspicion from the women's rights organisation in the direction of finance, because capitalism is not great for women, and I think we can all agree that. But here's an opportunity for us to actually reframe this as a tool in the toolbox of gender equality, and to start sharing some of the language. And I think there's a lot that the private sector can learn from what women's rights movements are trying to achieve, and the avenues and channels that they use for that. But similarly, I think there's a lot that women's rights movements can learn about how to influence finance. So if anyone's interested in being part of that facilitation thing, which at this stage would be a virtual meeting somewhere at the end of the year, let me know.
Yeah,
in Australia, it's Australian audience, time zone wise.
Great.
Yeah.
I just wanted to throw in, and that of course Vicky and I are very keen to help field building in Australia in any way, and if anybody needs contacts, please let us know, or wants us to help in any way. And yeah, Amy, that'd be probably throw us into that. Thanks, Vicky.
I guess to build on the Australian front, and I think it's such a great idea, Amy. I'm very excited that that's happening. I'm just assuming it will happen. I didn't mention what I do. I work predominantly with male CEOs on gender equality more broadly, but the organisation I work with, we have a strong focus on domestic and family violence and sexual harassment. And I've been working with one of our groups for a while, looking at investment in gender equality. I'm very keen for us to continue to really progress that work, and ideally release something more publicly to continue to drive that conversation in the investment community, but also more broadly just in the business community about what it means to incorporate a gender lens in investment and why we should do that. So look, at this stage, I guess I'm just putting it out there that at some point it'd be great to just continue to connect with women that work in finance in Australia as well, to once we sort of continue that work, ensure that that is incorporating the voices of women in the sector as well. So just keen to keep in contact.
Great. Coming up on time, any final thoughts, any bold statements or commitments that anyone wants to publicly declare? Well, we might end on time for those of you that need to, but happy to keep on the Zoom a bit longer. Karen, did you want to say something?
I was just going to say to Amy, she's been on several calls with me, and I love this expression, but let the scheming begin. I'm with you on the women's rights issues, and even some of the participants that there's a major gap is, you know, all those broad violence prevention people who are working in different domains. But I did encounter a level of suspicion when I first was involved in Criterion and obviously, you know, Convergence in 2011. A lot of people were saying, what are you with those people for, Karen? And I just really have tried to educate people, but I am not doing it very well to scale. So I think your idea is brilliant. And of course, Joy's behind it too. So I'm with you. Let the scheming begin.
Absolutely. And I just want to echo that. I think what's been really fascinating for me to see this conversation evolving over the years is that there's rightfully a lot more, I think, caution and suspicion on the gender side than the finance side. And it was a hypothesis that, you know, I shared with Joy when we first met and talked about this. I was like, oh, you'll get finance people at the table. You know, the difficulty is getting them to commit the dollars, right? The actual funding. Getting them to the table would be easier, but for the gender folks, I think just bringing them to the table, or I should say bringing us to the table. And I'm very much, you know, in solidarity with the idea of bringing more just feminist activists to this table, regardless of kind of where, in what kind of perspective, but just the global women's movement in this year of generation, in this year-ish of generation equality. I think is yeah, it's going to be critical.
Well said. And I know Amy's dropped off, but I think that, as you rightly say, Karen, it's very much in Criterion's wheelhouse to talk about how we bring these 2 or 3 or 4 different parts of this issue, if you will, together, and it feeds into a lot of the conversations we've been having about translators, and we had a really interesting, for those who may or may not have been in that conversation, but there was a really interesting moment internally where one of our team members made the distinction between being bilingual and being a translator. And we've just been having a lot of thinking about the importance of not just being able to step into either world or speak either language or terminology, but to have the ability to help other people make that leap. And so I think what Amy's talking about is really strongly aligned with how to create common understanding that allows us to then amplify the work out further into the world, which is, I think, really exciting for all of us here at Criterion and of course all of you.
Laura, I just had a quick question. The insurance group people have talked about, do you know where that is, or the insurance circle, or did I hear that there was like a group of people interested in insurance, and I sort of felt like I could add to that conversation?
I don't know, but
I was in that conversation, and I'm trying to remember what number it was so you could go watch the video.
I thought you did that.
Was it livelihoods? Was it the conversation about livelihoods?
It was the first. Was it? Yeah, I think it was the livelihood one.
Let me see if I can locate it.
So while Laura was looking that up, so you did. I felt, but is it a slant towards insurance that can be taken
can
out to
have
then
insurance-
fund.
Yeah, you can have insurance for a car
Yeah.
theft. You can have insurance for a hurricane. You can have insurance for a death. Why?
That's right. So
Why
yeah,
shouldn't
so
you
that's
have
why I was,
insurance against domestic violence or insurance against rape?
so I sit on a board, a prevention, family violence prevention board, and we looked at this, well, we actually got those accounting, also known as accounting companies, to look at this issue. I also sit on the board of a social insurer for road safety. So I think this, from a prevention angle, it's actually really interesting as well. So yeah, I'd love to see if I can assist in that conversation. There's an offer, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it was fun to throw that out on the table, but definitely not my wheelhouse. So I don't know. I mean, I hope somebody else will take that and run with it. But
Yeah, no, I think it's the it's a financing question. It's an interesting question, I think, also from a government financing point of view. So, and social bonds and all that sort of blah, 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 blah. But yes, they're interesting. So, Laura, yeah, I'll leave that. Don't put any pressure on you to find the conversation right now.
Few options in the chat, but if not, then circle. Maybe you can post it actually publicly, Julia, in general conversation, and just say I'm here to be interested, and it might just help spark other people to get involved, as well as you finding your way to where you need to be.
We could also set up a circle. So we've got I don't know if everyone's seen, but there are a couple of different circles, and you can find them by typing circle, not circles, circle in the chat. And so we've got one for translators. We've got one for public equities. So I just wonder whether we talk about, adding, if there's enough interest if it was such a conversation in one of the sessions and it's being raised again here, maybe we create a circle so that people that are interested in that topic can connect in an easier way.
Yeah, great point, Felicity.
Julia,
sorry, I was going to say, Julia, kick us off with a post, and then you'll get everyone interested, and we'll create a circle. Rosanna, go ahead.
I was just going to say it's an interesting question about who should bear the cost of that risk as well, which is probably something to just incorporate with that, because if you own a car, then you bear the cost of the risk that it might get stolen partially by buying insurance. Should women be the ones paying for that? And I think that's why it is a question around government. I mean, it's just a lot of questions around insurance for this.
That's right. Should the general population pay for it as well?
Yeah, it's an interesting thing that we're. Yeah.
Sorry, what was that, Judith? What did you say?
Maybe it should be mandatory insurance for every couple.
Well, yeah, and maybe it's part of employee insurance as well. I think it's yeah. I mean, all
the
very
concept
good.
that women. Sorry, I'm going in and out. I'll stop.
Interesting.
No, please keep going, Rosanna.
Oh no, I was just going to say, I mean, one of the, like we've been saying, we need to think about the downsides of any of these things as well. It potentially frames it as a women's cost, and that really worries me as well. So I think it's a really interesting idea. I also think there is a potential placing of costs and of risk mitigation on women that we're trying to move away from too, which for me is just something we'd have to keep thinking about with insurance.
I suppose it's also a way to make money if you can find a way to mitigate that risk more effectively.
Exactly.
So that's always the other side of the coin. But you're right, and I
Well, that's why I'm invested in mitigating those risks. That's my corner of the sky, is investing in mitigating the risk.
I like your corner of the sky. So actually, I don't feel like I know you very well. Can you just tell me maybe a little bit more about what you do?
So I am an empowerment self-defense instructor, but more than that, I have done my darndest to unite as many of the most talented, wonderful people who are teaching empowerment self-defense to work together globally. We now have a core group of about 300 people, 150 new instructors who were trained over the last 2-3 years, and we've built the organization to run it and move it. So part of what we do, and not all self-defense is created equally. Empowerment self-defense is a feminist theory-based self-defense system that looks at the entire spectrum of gender-based violence and says we have to learn how to deal with everything from life-threatening to irritating. And we have as much of a right to deal with the irritating as we do with the life-threatening. And here is the set of skills that will help you in that, in learning how to do the best you can to be as safe as you can in that spectrum. I'm a speaker, I'm writing a book, I'm doing whatever I can do to change. Look, at some point, the feminists in the 70s who started learning martial arts and self-defense became marginalized within the feminist movement. But they still kept teaching, underfunded and under-supported, and they kept growing and teaching and have created their bubbles of things. So my job is to unite everybody into this movement for violence prevention.
Very cool.
Do you do
in a nutshell.
And do you have a particular organization or website that you could share with us?
Absolutely. It's ESD Global Self-Defense, but I can put it wherever you want me to put it. I think I've posted a couple things that will get you there, but I'll put it in the chat here too.
I wanted to commend to Julia and anyone else who's interested. I watched the video that Judith posted, and it was a young woman who was talking about the merits of throughout her life of this and the need for self-defense, but what else it brings to her. And I understood more fully, like I'm talking from a vantage point of over 35 years in victims' issues with a lot of feminist understanding and a lot of groundbreaking things that were done in Boston that really brought this issue to the fore. And I guess one of my aha moments was hearing Judith and then seeing that video about the empowering, the healing, the importance of self-defense in all the psychological dimensions, all the issues of how women are socialized. And I think I would commend that to you and anyone else. I'm going to have a conversation with Judith after this, hopefully. And we have really connected because I think it's a really important thing to bring into the fold. And I'm so pleased the first few days to have heard from her.
This system has been created by women for the types of violence that women deal with on a daily basis. And the women who created it have degrees in social work, psychology, education, and the martial arts. Like, so they also have that, you know, what are the best physical skills to learn in order to stay connected with your body and to stay empowered in your body. And it's an amazing group of people. We have a closed Facebook page where we actually, this is our sandbox where we do the work. So anybody who would like to join us in the sandbox is welcome to join us. And it's everybody supporting everybody, getting their, you know, work recognized and out there and advertised and researched, and however we can help each other. Sometimes it's just teaching people how to use Teams.
I'm looking in to see where can I learn Calm and self-defense in Melbourne. I hope there's somewhere you can connect.
So I have somebody in Brisbane who would definitely get on a plane and come to you, and once you guys can move around. But she's doing Zoom classes also. She's fantastic.
Great.
Part of
can you share that? That would be, because I'm thinking that maybe this is the motivation I need to get more physical and active. So, you know, if I can combine with, you know, yeah.
Yes, you're going to do a lot of go away now. Get into your tiger's voice.
Great. Hopefully that might work with my children when I'm done.
I was thinking that might work with my puppy.
First of all, it works with dogs. We know it works with dogs. We actually have a success story that's connected to a dog where a graduate was on her way home late at night and she heard really horrific, you know, snarling and barking behind her. She turns around and sees this huge dog coming after her with his teeth bared, and she goes, no, no, no. And the dog went and turned and ran away. She was like, whoa, I can't believe that noise came out of my body. I haven't done anything in 8 years to practice this. It worked, and it worked on a dog. And the dog's owners were kind of like, ooh, what was that? What just happened?
Amazing.
So, Australia, I'm gonna have to find Angela's information. Hold on. My computer, I'm in New York for 3 weeks, and the beginning of this week, my computer went up in flames. Like it burnt, it like fried, melted, like literal meltdown. So I'm on my daughter's spare Mac, and I don't speak Mac.
That's okay. You can share it with us in the group later. But thank you for giving us an insight into your work and your world. We might wrap it up there because I'm noticing people have other places to go. If anyone wants to jump in with a final thought or invitation to carry on, please do. But otherwise, thank you all for showing up for this connection. For those of you at various points in your day, lovely to have this time together.